Hello. Welcome back. I will never forgive my streaming service for letting me down like that. Absolutely dirty dogged. Welcome back, Jordan. We're gonna hope to rope in some folks who were watching the broadcast earlier, but yeah, I guess on YouTube they weren't able to see anything, they weren't able to hear anything. So
That's
I had
crazy.
yeah,
Sorry, because you
I had to cut bait. No, I mean
the
I
best analysis of your entire life, and everybody, it was just you and I. Like,
you
I
were
mean, I
you
was,
were you were letting it rip
oh,
too.
I was going to say, you dropped the hardest bar I've ever heard in my life, and now the world will never know.
Yeah. Well, that at least you know, at least we know.
Oh, I'm taking it to the grave with me, dude. I'm cherishing that till the end of my days.
Yeah, we were in our bag, and that's all that matters. All right. Well, I got another topic for us to discuss while people file in, which is: do we think Fred Warner has the chance here to win Defensive Player of the Year? What are your thoughts?
Does he have the chance? Like, I hope so. Like, this is the he should be the defensive player of the year. He's the best defensive player in the league right now.
I
Nobody
agree.
is impacting the game at all three levels the way that Fred Warner is right now. You could argue he's been doing it for a couple of years. Like, honestly, even if you go to the year that like Bosa won defensive player of the year, Warner was just as good then. I think Bosa was totally deserving of it, but it's like this isn't a new thing. Like, Warner has been a guy that should have been in that conversation. Off the top of my head, at least 2020, 2022, and 2023, he should be in consideration. If he didn't win it, should have been involved in the discussion. The problem that we have, though, my friend, is that this award has basically turned into who is the most productive edge rusher, and
Correct.
or is there a defensive back that has like a really gaudy number of interceptions or some wild statistic that we could bank on? All due respect to Deron Bland, like Deron Bland was getting Defensive Player of the Year consideration last year. Like that's like, come on, man. Like, if we're really awarding like I know we had a lot of pick sixes, and it was like this, cool thing. But if we're talking about an award for the best defensive player in the league, is Deron Bland the best defensive player in the league? Like, I don't think so. I would be hard pressed to find somebody that thinks he's the best defensive player on the Dallas Cowboys when Micah Parsons is on the same team. So I think the issue that we're having is that it's just become such a. The problem for me with voting for a lot of these awards is it's so much work covering one football team. It's so hard to stay on top of just one football team and what they're doing and keeping up with every play and all this and that. How on earth is somebody who's voting for this supposed to be able to keep up with 32 teams? And so I think a lot of times what happens is you fall on like box score stats and you fall on things like, I could be wrong on the year. I think it was 2021. I apologize if I'm wrong. One of the years that Bosa, I believe, didn't get voted All Pro, and who was it? It was he used to play for the Rams, and he was on the Bears for a little bit. There was an edge rusher. I can't believe I'm blanking on his name right now. But there was an edge rusher on the Bears that had a ton of sacks that year, but like half the pressures that Bosa did, and a lot of them were just kind of like Robert Quinn. It was Robert Quinn.
Oh yeah.
Quinn got voted All Pro over Nick Bosa because he had like 18 sacks that year. But if you went back, I literally went back and I watched the film on every single one of the sacks. They were like mop up sacks, coverage sacks, like cleanup sacks. Which, hey, they're sacks at the end of the day. But if we're talking about like a dominant defensive performance, absolutely was not the case. And Nick Bosa had like I think like 15 or 16. He had a couple less sacks than him, but like more than double the pressures, and so clearly was the better player. And I think what happens is a lot of times people that are going to vote for these things are so overwhelmed with all the stuff that's going on covering football that they end up just kind of like, hey, Robert Quinn guy, 18 sacks. Like, of course he's an all pro. You get 18 sacks in a season. And Fred Warner is the kind of player that gets cheated out of this kind of style of voting more than anybody, because to understand what Fred Warner does, you can't rely on a box score to do it. Like, to me, some of the most impressive things he does are the things where he's taking parts of the field away where quarterbacks and offensive coordinators and opposing players aren't even going in his direction because of what he's doing. And so when the box score is tallied up at the end of the game, some of his greatest plays won't even show up on it because he's erasing a number one wideout in the deep third of the field on a key third down, or he's combining for a tackle or making a tackle that in the grand scheme of things is one tackle, but it's a touchdown saving tackle, or forcing a fumble that the ball bounces out of bounds and it's a great play, but because it isn't recovered, it doesn't get reflected in the stat sheet. Like, just he's a player. He's like the ultimate Rich Madrid player, right? Like, he's the ultimate. You have to watch the games to appreciate how good he is. And I don't think that the majority of the people voting for these awards have the bandwidth to watch every single game for every single team. It'd be nearly impossible to do so. So I don't necessarily blame like the voters because I don't think it's their fault. I think we're just at a point where we need to start brainstorming ideas to allow for a better voting system so that players like Fred Warner's legacies aren't forgotten. Like, I would hate to get to a point 30 years from now where I'm having a debate with my son or, somebody who's younger, and I'm like, hey, like, Fred Warner's, this incredible linebacker, he did this, this, and this. And like, oh, well, I'm on Football Reference, and it says he only had this many Pro Bowls or this many All-Pros. He never won Defensive Player of the Year. And it's like, you get to this point where it's like going to be so infuriating trying to like establish what we saw with our own eyes because the accolades won't match it due to this faulty system we're in. So that's the end of my rant. But this is one
No,
thing.
no, dude, cook.
It drives me crazy, dude, because, again, guys like Fred Warner are going to get cheated out of their legacy.
Cook, dude.
Patrick Willis is like the reason why I fell in love with, not the sole reason, but one of the main reasons I fell in love with football as a kid growing up. And I never in my entire life thought that I would see a 49ers linebacker even remotely close to how good he is. Dude, Fred is like, it's a discussion that could be had. And I think Patrick Willis is incredible. Best linebacker I've ever seen. But Fred Warner's creeping up there, man. Like, he's that good of a player. And he's only in his 7th season. Like, he can keep doing it. The way he's playing, he could probably do this for another 5-6 years easy at this level.
I completely agree with everything you're saying. I was blown. I thought Patrick Willis was the apex, and Fred Warner is just doing things that we will remember for a lifetime. And it's so early in the season. I wanted to pull this up. These are the Defensive Player of the Year odds. So this is what Vegas thinks, right? So, and personally, if what I should have done in Vegas is I should have put money on this, just so we all know. Fred Warner is plus 2,000 to win this award. Aiden Hutchinson currently is in the lead for this award, which Aiden Hutchinson's 6.5 sacks so far. He's got a forced fumble. He's doing good work. But I think people are not seeing how much Fred Warner is doing for this defense right now. I mean, I have never felt like a player could be everywhere all at once more than I do this season watching Fred Warner. It's mind-blowing. And of course he gets a touchdown. You know what I mean? It is of no surprise to me that he was capable of making a play like that happen this season. So just so we all know, if the text is a little too small for you guys, I'll read out this list real quick. The order in which Vegas currently thinks Defensive Player of the Year is ranked: Aiden Hutchinson, number 1, TJ Watt, number 2, Nick Bosa, number 3, Chris Jones, number 4, Max Crosby, number 5, Myles Garrett, number 6, then number 7, Fred Warner, just ahead of Micah Parsons, but their odds are the same. Do with that what you will. If you happen to live in a state where you can wager, hey, might be worth it, because Fred Warner to me is, we always knew he was a good player. This is the first season where I'm watching him and I go, oh, this is a gold jacket player. Like, this is a Hall of Famer when we are watching this happen right before our eyes.
To me, the thing that's so impressive about Fred Warner is that, like, he not only is, like, extremely talented, but he's, like, pioneered this, like, change at linebacker in a way, it feels like, where, like, I remember growing up, and, like, I'm 29, so, take that for what it's worth. Everybody's timeline is different. But even for me growing up at 29, like, linebackers had, like, the cowboy collars and were, like, these big, maybe not as fleet of foot, but were, like, kind of thumpers that would play in the box and get really downhill. Fred Warner is, like, tasked with not only, like, doing that, but also, like, covering, like, a defensive back and getting sideline to sideline, like, safety. Like, I don't think that you could have had a more perfect player for the way that the NFL has gone so pass heavy and the way that teams try to spread out defenses now and really isolate guys in space. Like we see Kyle Shanahan every single week, right? Like we've seen the memes with the microscope, and it's like he's picking on these second level defenders where he's like finding the weakness, and the majority of defenses there's a weakness on the second level. Like for the 49ers, you almost can't attack the second level, or if you do, you have to be extremely particular with how you do it because of how talented Fred Warner is. Like how many teams in the NFL in this day and age, generally when you're game planning against a defense, it's a Myles Garrett, it's a TJ Watt, it's an Aaron Donald, or it's a number one corner that, like a Sauce Gardner or a Patrick Surtain that you're, kind of game planning around and figuring out ways to not, to put them in a position where they can wreck the game. How many teams are going into it and the other team's Mike linebacker is that, guy that's circled on the, on the board for the offense that week? Baltimore has a really good one in Roquan Smith, but other than that, like I'm struggling to think of a guy where that would be the number one priority. And if you're game planning for the 49ers defense right now and Fred Warner isn't your number one priority, I have to question what you're doing with your job because I think that he's that good. And that's insane to say because there's a defensive player of the year who won it 2 years ago on the same defense who's fully healthy and playing great right now too. So, Fred Warner, and it's not just what he does like on the field. It's like how he's grown as a leader and like what he does as a team captain and the way he fires guys up. Like, dude, I was out on the field before the game on Sunday and like before they even had pads on, because when they get pads on, when you see the mic'd ups, right? Like they have pads on, really close to kickoff. Dude, they were in warm-ups like with like IT bands, like stretching 3 hours before kickoff, and Warner got those guys together and had them all fired up in a circle, like locked the heck in. Like he just has this innate leadership quality to him. And I talked to DFF in the locker room after the game about it, and he just talked about how important that is and how that sets the tone for them. And they're like, when a guy plays like that, you have to play like that. Like there is no negotiating. Like you are matching that intensity, or you're not going to be there. And so I think the total package is awesome. And like we need to make a stand as a football society and give this award to somebody who is not an edge rusher. Like it's time. And unless somebody like breaks the sack record this season or has like 150 pressures, give it to Fred Warner. If anything, just to start a revolution. Like let's just let's change the tune on this and get out of this monotonous who was the best edge rusher award, because it's basically what it is. And the MVP is who's the best quarterback award, and it's become droll, dude. It's like very predictable. It's not it's just not like. I don't know. Like, I wish there was a little bit more flair for the dramatic with these things. What better way to shake things up than giving this award to a Mike linebacker?
Hell yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hell yeah.
Yes, sir.
Fred Warner for Defensive Player of the Year. Jesus Christ, we need that, man. I'm so glad we're on the same page with that because I might actually put my money where my mouth is. We'll see. 49ers versus Cardinals. What are we looking for in this upcoming matchup? Obviously, Cardinals, they've shown glimpses of being a good team. They've also taken some losses that make you feel like they may not make the playoffs. It really, I think it remains to be seen what happens with that team, especially with the NFC West that feels a little wonky right now. What are you looking for in this matchup? And does anything on that Cardinals team scare you going into this game?
My answer is one and the same for both, and it's Kyler Murray, and it's him scrambling, and him just. I feel like every time they've played, even the games that the Niners have kind of won fairly handily the last couple of years. I know he was injured for a good amount of those as well, but like going back to his first start, even his rookie season when they swept the Cardinals, like his ability to extend plays and get out of sacks and escape would-be pressures and just like. You're in a 3rd and long where you're like this close to getting off the field and somehow you look up and this guy manages to scramble for 15, 16 yards and extend the drive. Like if they can avoid that and if they're able to, keep him in the pocket and force him to make throws downfield and find somebody other than Marvin Harrison to get the ball to, I like the Niners' chances in this one. Like I think Arizona's a better team than maybe they get credit for, but this kind of falls into what we had said about the Patriots game. Like this is a game you should win. Like, this is a game that you should be able to handle business at home. If they're able to not allow Kyler Murray to completely just eviscerate them with his legs, I think they'll be okay. He's a tremendous quarterback, and what he can do with his arm is not something that should be slept on at all. I just think that that's something that you can weather if you're the 49ers. But if he's able to wreak havoc with his legs, it could be a situation where we're sitting here and we're like, oh God, like here we go again. How many times have we seen this movie since the guy got drafted in 2019? So containing Kyler Murray is my thing, and specifically containing him on the ground.
Totally. I think you took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, none of these quarterbacks that we have faced scare me with their legs in the way that Kyler Murray does. And mobile quarterbacks have been our kryptonite for a while. And so for this matchup to be coming up in this moment where our defensive line is building confidence, they really need to demonstrate that they can contain this threat. And they also need to demonstrate that they can stop the run. And because Connor's going to test it. James Conner is going to see if he's going to be able to get some daylight against this defense. And it's going to be really important to try to to limit as many dimensions to that offense as we can. Because the last thing, the more that Kyler Murray running is one of many issues that we could run into, then the more likely it is it's going to hurt us. But if we're able to isolate what our potential threats are, it makes it a lot easier to recognize when we need to just contain it and do the best we can to try to be in the best position to do that. I will say that it will be nice to finally get a cathartic Brandon Ayuk breakout play. I think look, I think a lot of people are being a little extra tough on him. He is getting separation. He is still a very good wide receiver. The panic button is being, smashed a little too early in a lot of cases. But I think it will be really important to get him going. Is this the game? I don't know. I hope so. But that's one thing I am looking for. And I'm going to say that for every preview every week until it happens. The thing I'm looking for is Brandon Ayuk to fucking start getting going. And it's not all on him, I promise you. This is not me saying, Brandon, you need to be a better player. It's just sometimes that's just the winds of the offense. Sometimes the winds don't carry the ball in the direction you hope it will because of coverage or because of scheme or because of a myriad of different reasons, or because you didn't get seen on the play where you ran up the seam and did get open, extra open for a touchdown. There are a myriad of reasons why Brandon Ayuk has not had that breakout game yet. None of them are because he's not a good receiver. So I am waiting for that opportunity for him to finally have that breakout game, because I know that is going to be weight off of his shoulders. Because if there's one thing I know Brandon Ayuk does is he's on social media, and you better believe that he's sick of people talking on his name like this, and he wants to demonstrate that he's worth the money that the 49ers are paying him.
Well, I think one thing with Ayuk too is that the Niners have never been a team that was gonna win games the way that the Packers did when Devontae Adams was there, or the way that Minnesota won games the last couple of years before they had a Hall of Famer step in at quarterback apparently and change the fortunes of their franchise. But the Niners have never been a team where they were going to just feed Brandon Ayuk 160
Correct.
targets a year, 180 targets a year, and so his production's probably not gonna match up with a lot of the guys kind of getting paid in that same range. But to me, that's a pretty good problem to have. And I think we'll really start to see Ayuk's value when we get into December and January in these games. All the games do count all the same in the standings, but there is just a little bit of a different feel when we get into those last 4 games of the regular season and then obviously into the playoffs. And I think Ayuk's proven that he can be a guy that you can rely on in those moments. And when teams start, when you're playing better teams that are able to rely on playing man coverage a little bit more because they have the players and the pieces to do that, Brandon Ayuk's consistently shown that he's a guy that can get that separation that you need. And just like you said, he's been separating just fine. It's not his fault if he's not getting the ball on every single play. So I get it. People are frustrated because there's this belief among sports fans, right? If you get paid a ton of money, you have to produce every single game. We've seen the same thing with Bosa. There's games where Bosa's had 8 or 9 pressures and has been really, really good. that he doesn't have a sack. And people are like, oh, he's getting paid all this money. He didn't get a sack in this game. It's like, it's the NFL, dude. That's how it goes. Like sometimes it's like that. Like until we see a very extended slate of games where a guy's underperforming, I don't think it's wise to jump to conclusions about them being overpaid or not worth their money or not worth this or that, especially when we can go back and look at the long track record that got them paid and how much more of the sample size that is than, 4 weeks of the regular season that we're in now. And it's like, I don't know. I just think the Brandon Ayuk discourse is like super frustrating because like it's like, where have we been the last 4 seasons before this, right? Like, are we going to pretend like he hasn't been a really good player for 4 years? Like,
Totally.
I don't know.
Totally. And in the scope of the conversation seems so narrow. But I do hope he hits that stride. The 49ers, if you ever look at like who was like the man in each of the games over the last season, it's like we have a garage of exotic cars that are all very different. Like we've got like this beefed up Dodge Charger Deebo Samuel. We've got this off-road crazy tricked out car like muscle truck that's George Kittle. And we've got this Ferrari. And sometimes you just want to take out a different car based on the different day. Hey, are we trying to get rough and muddy? All right, let's take out the big truck. Are we trying to burst up in your face? All right, let's get Deebo. Or if we need finesse to start stressing out some of these DBs, all right, Brandon Ayuk, show them what separation looks like. There's a myriad of different ways that these schemes get drawn up based on whoever they're competing against. I know for sure that Ayuk is going to have his big day, and that big day is going to be so cathartic for him because I guarantee you, I think he needs it more than he might let on, because I know that he wants to feel that experience of when you see a player getting in their bag on the field, when you see them so feeling like they're in their groove, because that's where you start to get into like a flow state. That's where like the great catches become wow catches, is when they're just super locked in. They've got that momentum. They've got that confidence. And I have zero doubt that he will get there. Any last thoughts on this matchup or this IU conversation before we get to affirmations?
No, I just love that you're predicting it every week because it's eventually going to happen.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen, and then when it does, you're like, "Told you!" Like,
yeah, it's like my parlays. Like I keep saying they're gonna win, and they never do. But I if there's one bet I'm willing to make, it's that Ayuk will have a better Sunday than I will with my parlay. I will bet that every week as well. Because just because I lose every week doesn't mean he will. In fact, I feel this is the one. This is the weekend against the Cardinals. You're hearing it here first. And if it happens, I'm going to clip this clip and I'm going to post it. And if it doesn't happen, I'm not going to clip this clip and post it, and no one will ever know it happened. So that's on that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Time for affirmations. Have you thought about this? Do you know who you want to talk about?
I've been kind of like weighing it and like going back and forth. I'll let you go first, just in case you have a similar.
Okay.
But
well, first I'll answer this question. This picture is actually the Sourdeath Sam logo thing I've got going on. A little Easter egg. I don't know if anyone's actually looked at the Sourdeath Sam logo. It is not a direct rip. It is not a one-to-one rip of the old 49ers guy. He's a little skeleton, and he's holding a whiskey bottle and a gun in the other hand. So I don't recommend you doing that in real life, but Sourdeath Sam universe, hell yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Here we go. Let me get the music queued up. No. I have so many old relics. I have the American anthem from my Bosa day. All right, here we go. That was a fun one. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Affirmations. If you are joining me for the first time, if you are new here, or if you just have amnesia, this is my segment where my guests and I will say nice, encouraging, and or kind things about a player, a coach, or really anyone in the universe. And I will let you go first, Jordan, because you are my guest.
You know, I wanted to say it to the entire 49ers offensive line, and I think just offensive linemen in general. It's such a thankless job, and it's a hard job, and it's one where when you do it, nobody really cares, but when you make one mistake, the weight of the world is on your shoulders. And I think, every week there's a couple plays here and there you'd like to have back, but for the most part, we're a month through the season. I think the 49ers offensive line looks pretty good, and I know it often gets billed as like Trent Williams and 4 other guys, which, Trent Williams is a future first ballot Hall of Famer, really good player. But those 4 other guys have been pretty good, and I think that they're giving the 49ers a chance to win every week, and they have not been anything close to a liability as a unit that's putting the 49ers in a position where they can't win games. So while it is a thankless job, just know that some of us out there do recognize you and do see the job that you are doing. So keep it up, 49ers offensive line.
Hell yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Gotta show the big boys some love. Gotta. My first affirmation goes out to Kevin Givens. You just had a career game, and it's taken you a long time to get there. And it's not easy to stay in the league, and it's not easy to have a 2.5 sack game with multiple pressures. Not at this level, and as Jordan has said many a time, let's forget who's the hot playoff team, who might not make it. These are NFL players they're going against. This is never easy any week, and you did that shit, and you should be very, very, very proud, because when it was time to answer the call, you delivered, and we appreciate you for it. All right, go ahead. Give me another one.
Man, this one, it's a little old. Does it matter? It's from week 3.
Whatever. Yeah, you could say the Queen of England for all I care.
I want to give some affirmations to Ronnie Bell, because I think that it's a hard place to be in when you're earning your opportunities. You're a day 3 draft pick. You waited all this time, and you got a couple drops in a game that was pretty big. But that happens. That happens to the best of players, and I think that there will be an opportunity to redeem for those, to atone for those mistakes. And I think that it's all about getting your mind right for that moment. And I think that we'll have to wait and see when it is, but I would be stunned if that was the last that we saw of Ronnie Bell. So I just hope that he's able to compartmentalize everything, put it aside, understand that, he made it, like Kyle Shanahan said after the game, like, he's a grown man. He knows he made a mistake. He knows he has to catch those balls. But at a certain point, especially, knock on wood, given the way that injuries have happened this season, odds are at some point you're going to be counted on again, dude. Just go out there and make a play and make everybody forget about what happened in week 3 in Los Angeles.
Hell yeah. And honestly, Ronnie Bell is such a good example of why I created this segment, because the easy thing to do on these shows, and it happens on this show too. Hey, look, if you make a mistake on the field, we might talk about it on this show. But the caveat is that at the end, we want to encourage you. We want to lift you up. There are enough outlets on this planet to tear people down. I want to give an outlet for people to be brought back up. So Ronnie Bell, we love you. You're still a 49er, goddammit. And we want you to always perform at your best, as much as I know you want to be performing your best, and I believe you can. That was a good one. That was a very good one. All right, I'll do one more. You do one more. We'll call it a night. I'm going to say, who am I going to pick? I am going to pick Juwan Jennings. I know this is the game after the sort of big coming out party. Three catches for 88 yards, though. In fact, that's kind of my point. You signed a 1-year extension, and this year you might have changed your life forever. And I'm really proud to know that you did it in a 49ers jersey again. You've been so consistent, and I can't help but think that this season you're playing so well that we may not see you in a 49ers jersey again. And it's not because we don't want you. It's not because you don't want to be here. It's just because someone is going to want to pay you a lot more money than we have. And God damn it, that's a good thing. Because at the end of the day, as much as you are such an amazing draft steal in my mind, as much as you are such a excellent 49er, as much as you get me so fired up in the moments that are so important, I also want to make sure that you and your family and everyone you love, that they got generational money, and you've been paid pretty well. You've been paid pretty well, but Juwan Jennings, you might be paid like a big dog at the end of the season, and I hope it happens. If it's with the 49ers, I would love that even more. But my affirmation to you is, you put in the hard work. You did all the nose to the grindstone, blue collar shit that we needed you to do, and now you're starting to get your flowers, and I think it's very well deserved.
Yes, sir.
Not a good one to take us home. Ready for this one?
Yeah, I'm so fucking ready.
I want to give some encouragement to Michael Onwenu. And for those of you who are wondering, who's Michael Onwenu? Michael Onwenu is an offensive lineman for the New England Patriots, and he got absolutely plastered by Malik Mustafa on Fred Warner's interception return. If you haven't seen the video yet, I highly recommend pull up YouTube, Twitter, whatever. I guarantee you it's out there. Just absolutely obliterated as he was attempting to cut off the angle, pick up his quarterback, make a play. Hey, Fred Warner's running into the end zone. I'm going to go and try and tackle him. No, you're not. You're getting driven into the turf at Levi's by Malik Mustafa coming in at 100 miles an hour, blindsiding you, and just absolutely ripping you to shreds. And just know that you may have been the first, but you will not be the last. You are just a building block towards what will probably be a very prominent career for Mr. Mustafa, lighting up opposing players. And so you always will have a place in his storied career, however it may pan out. But just know that, like I said, it's pretty soon you'll join a very exclusive club of players to just be absolutely lambasted by number 6 on the 49ers. Again, if you haven't seen the clip yet, go watch it. It's remarkable. Just plants him, dude. Like, absolutely. That's what football's all about, dude. You see plays like it was like the Water Boy. It was like the scene in the Water Boy.
Totally. That's such a good analogy.
Literally, like, exact same kind of, collision and just intensity behind the hit. So, Michael Onwenu, pick your head up, because you are a champion for showing the effort to make that play, and you were a champion for getting back up as quick as you did after, because I don't think that I would even be conscious after getting hit that hard.
Yes, dude.
Yes, sir.
I like how...
Yes, sir.
I like how you... That might have been the first, backhanded affirmation on this show, and I thought it would always be Rich. But you did it first. So I appreciate... my affirmation to you is thank you for innovating the format. I like that. We always try to keep it positive, but that was tongue in cheek. I see you, bro. That was a good one. GMass the Cupcake says, affirmations to this channel. I caught it a couple of weeks back, and it is phenomenal. One of my favorite new channels. Hey, bro.
Yes, sir.
I needed to hear that, especially after the tech problems today. If you stuck for the original stream and made it over to this round 2, my affirmation is to you. This one, finally, the technical difficulty appears to be completely out of my control. I think it was EVMux, or the program I use, whatever. I use a website to check if other websites are down. It said yes. So I apologize. This is a team sport, as we talked about at the top of the show. So I'm going to go in the locker room with my streaming provider and ream them. And we're going to come back. We're going to be stronger than ever. But for those of you who stuck around, I really appreciate you. It means a lot. Echoes for life. Yeah, this dude knows what I'm talking about. This dude's an OG on this season when we're making jokes about the Echo. So I appreciate you guys very much. And I appreciate you, Jordan, very much. I'm very stoked. It's been amazing to see you kind of on the field doing your thing. You're so in your element. You're such a pro. You were so built for this. and excited to continue to see the articles you put out. And hopefully I can have you back on the show. We'll have one consistent, non-technically broken up conversation for the folks to be able to get a taste of your brain. Any last words for the folks before you sign off and I sign the people off as well?
No, let's just keep having fun, man. It's week 5. There's a lot of season to go. Football's fun, man. Let's, got to get this weather in control here in the Bay Area. Pretty soon it's going to be fall, and it'll be football weather again, and we could really just dive into this thing, man. Start having some fun.
Bro, jacket weather, football weather. I'm about to start bulking, so jacket season. That's okay with me.
Yes, sir.
Any day is just I'm gonna like levitate off the ground and just rise off the ground.
Yeah, like a cartoon smelling a pie.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm gonna exactly. Yeah.
Hell yeah,
Yes,
too.
sir. Yes, sir.
Bro.
Yes, sir.
Jordan Elliott, everyone. Thank you for hopping on. I'm gonna sign these folks off. Much appreciated. Friend of the show. Thanks for hopping on.
Thanks for having me, dude. It's always a pleasure.
For sure. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we did it. We ran into some difficulties. All right, I'm not gonna lie. We had to make this 2 different streams. 2 different streams. But I see a gang of you in here, and I appreciate that very, 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 very much. I can't tell you how grateful I am to have 10 people at this moment at least, hop over from the last stream and stick with me. So to you all, I appreciate it. If you're new here and you didn't catch those technical difficulties and you showed up late, it's okay. I love you. Go ahead and just subscribe to this channel. This is how you do it. YouTube.com/@Sourdeath Sam. Guess what? I'm also on Apple Podcasts. I'm also on Spotify Podcasts. You can find me there too. And we can always have fun together when it's just you and I and a guest and Kyle 5000. We got 3 hearts here in the comments. I'm going to leave it on this. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I'm going to get some much needed rest, maybe some dinner, and definitely some more water after this Vegas trip. I appreciate you all very much. We're going to beat these Cardinals, and I will see you next week. Thanks for watching.